If you've been watching for a while, you know about my affinity for adventure games. Games like Uninvited or Snatcher have a way of gripping me and pulling me into their universes and typically keep me hooked for quite a while. These are the type of games I keep coming back to even years later, and I think I've got one that you may not have heard of. Princess Tomato and the Salad Kingdom on the NES. And no, it's not just a game where there's a tomato who happens to be a princess who happens to rule over a kingdom of salad. There's a little bit more to it than that, actually. A menu-based adventure game, Princess Tomato puts you in the shoes of Sir Cucumber, who has been tasked with saving the titular princess from the evil Minister Pumpkin, who's stolen her away along with the kingdom's priceless turnip emblem. The king, before dying of grief, promises Sir Cucumber the princess's hand in marriage and the Salad Kingdom should he succeed. Yeah, it's a pretty basic story, but it sets up a fun, quirky little adventure pretty easily. So as you've probably guessed, Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom takes place in a world inhabited by anthropomorphic fruits and vegetables. Minister Pumpkin commands a force of evil farmies, or humans who harvest the citizens of the Salad Kingdom, and the game can take a mature or dark tone in ways that make you laugh at almost how absurd the things happening in the game are. It's got this cute, fruity facade, but during your adventures you'll escape from drowning in a torture room or blow up a giant banana monster with a bomb. Have I piqued your curiosity yet? Okay. Let's start from the beginning. Princess Tomato is played solely through menu commands. Unlike other adventure games on the system at the time, like Uninvited or Maniac Mansion, there's no cursor to use to interact with the environment. I'd liken the control of the game to Snatcher, which was also entirely menu-based. Sir Cucumber has a variety of commands on both sides of the display, ranging from the important, most of the ones on the left, to the ones you'll hardly ever use, the ones to the right. Commands like Look will give you an overview of the area you're currently exploring and will often reveal extra objects you can closely examine with Check, which may result in finding another item or advancing the narrative somehow. In the early parts of the game, you're kind of taught a little bit about how the game works by saving Percy Persimmon. He's thirsty and in bad shape when you come across him, and in the nearby area of Spinach Heights, there's a lake. You can then give Percy the water for him to drink, and as thanks, he joins you as a sort of squire of sorts. After Percy joins you, you're able to use his button to get a quick hint occasionally, though sometimes he can be less than helpful. Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom is a lot easier than your typical adventure game, if for no other reason than you can't really die or get stuck while exploring, and each section of the game is separated by levels, which makes the game a little bit more linear, but that does ensure that your quest is constantly moving forward. Now that doesn't mean there isn't a plethora of areas to explore, because there are, but you won't spend a great length of time in any one of them. This game is a little, okay, it's pretty damn weird. After sneaking into the town of Saladoria, Sir Cucumber and Percy have to get a wandering garlic, a coffee, and a donut to get information. You could just buy a coffee with the gold that you have, but no one accepts gold coins in this town. You need to convert the coins with the antiques dealer by doing him a favor, then buy the coffee. But the donut shop got closed when the farmies took over. Where could you find a donut? At the cabaret, of course. Duh. But not just in the cabaret either. The waiter tells you he has someone he wants you to meet who's waiting in the restroom, which if that doesn't sound shady, I don't know what does. But in the restroom, there's no one there. You can exhaust all of your options, but eventually you'll find a donut in the trash can. Now, why are trash can donuts okay all of a sudden, I have no idea, but whatever, there's your donut. Not all the puzzles are that weird, but there's a few that will just make you scratch your head, not at their difficulty, but just at how bizarre they are. Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom can often get a little dark, too. From Percy's sometimes blunt observations about characters, or digging through the skin of a monster to save a child, or even talking about getting eaten or being harvested by the farmies, Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom often gets a little creepy for a kid's game, or even just a little risque. Oh, and for some reason, Percy's face creeps me out. Hey Percy, how about backing away from the camera, dude? Actually, a lot of characters do this, but Percy's is the worst because you see it every time he loses some of your items before he gives you the password to proceed to the next level. He does this to free up space in your inventory by getting rid of those non-essential items, and while it may seem like there's a lot of useless stuff in the game, like most adventure games, some items you can get early will come in handy later, like certain juices and money, so it's best to grab what you can. Now, a lot of commands are near completely useless, as I mentioned before, so when they are needed, the player will only find out about them after completely exhausting all their other options. Things like praising a doorman or having Percy do something are not always obvious, which can be a little frustrating for games like this, since players will assume they've missed something and go back and try to find something else instead. The game is broken up by occasional maze areas as well, which can be insanely difficult since everything looks the same. I forgot to find the compass when I played for this video, but finding it will make your time in this game a lot easier. There's also combat, or something like it. Occasionally you'll be challenged by farmies or monsters to finger wars, or really just a version of rock, paper, scissors. You can throw the thing you want by hitting the D-pad in a certain direction, and if you win, you'll have to guess where your enemy will look. If they look in the same direction you point, you take a point away from them. This goes on till you win, more or less. Now if the opponent guesses where you'll be looking, they gain a point, at which point the game can become a total slog. Most enemies you'll fight will have a specific pattern, such as always throwing paper, always looking left, or following a specific pattern. You can find these hints out in the world if you look hard enough, but some enemies don't have patterns at all, which can prove to be very lengthy segments of combat. Honestly, there's not a whole lot more to Princess Tomato than that. It's quirky, cute, and funny with a little bit of dark tones thrown in, and some pretty simple puzzles that don't feel out of place with any other adventure game at the time. I have long been a fan of this game because along with the other Macventure NES titles, it was one of those games as a kid that got me into the adventure game genre, which eventually led me in life to find games like Snatcher. Now the NES version isn't too hard to find on the cartridge, and the game was released on the Wii's Virtual Console too, but this does mark the only English version of Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom to be released. In Japan, they got the original version, which was even weirder on computers like the PC-88. And that means Strawberry Jesus here didn't ever make its way to the western parts of the world, and that might be for the best. Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom is an excellent distraction for a short while, considering the game isn't very long, especially if you know what you're doing. So if you're willing to save Princess Tomato from winding up on the tip of a french fry, you might want to check this game out.